Welcome to Law Chat with Girja, my entrepreneur friends. I'm Girja Parka Patel, and I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a businesswoman, a lawyer, and an entrepreneur, just like you. I believe in the power of storytelling and mentorship through stories. Whether 6 months in or 20 years in their journey, entrepreneurs have impactful experiences to share, which are full of mistakes and full of victories. And my goal is to highlight those and to celebrate the diverse narratives and perspectives in the world of entrepreneurship, which inevitably provides motivation, encouragement, and inspiration to our community and to our own journey. So Law Chat's purpose is not just to share the expected conversations about their businesses and journey, but also I want to share and dive deep into their details. Get nosy, get personal, and learn from their pivotal journey and their mistakes, and also, again, their victories. So I'm here to use those moments to inspire and to motivate you on your own journey. And of course, we can't run away from the law. After all, this is Law Chat with Girja. So let's dive in.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Law Chat. I have such a special guest on today, Emily Bastedo. I have known her for some years now. She actually met me on my first day of not knowing what I was getting into as a blogger, but then really got into it as a lawyer for creatives. And so she's known me since then. But it's so beautiful to see her evolution and her journey, because she is now I feel like she's a trailblazer as a blogger, as an influencer, and she does plus size lifestyle, fashion, travel blog. It's amazing. Her, entire platform is so beautiful, but really she's actually a cybersecurity analyst also. I don't know how she does it all, but I am so excited to learn today, and also just learn about the journey and how you just own who you are and just allow yourself and give yourself permission to project that. So welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me. This is like an honor to be on your podcast. I've been following it and loving hearing the stories. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah. I mean, seriously though, we were just talking right before we started, and I was like, you actually saw me day one before we were going to a conference where I walked into that room as a supposed blogger. And really, I didn't know how life-changing that entire conversation would have been.
No, but it's been so amazing to see that, right? And this is definitely a field that we all need, right? Having a lawyer in our boat. I know for me, I need a team behind me so to make this all work. So no, I love that you were able to identify that need and leverage your skill set.
And I appreciate that, because honestly, when I met you and some other women there, I realized that there was such a need for law in the creative realm, in the creative industry. But then also you encouraged me so much, and you empowered me because you showed me that need. So I'm just so thankful for that. But I gave this really very brief introduction of yours because you are so much more than that. So tell me, is there anything else that you'd like to share, or we just kind of talk about it?
Yeah, let's just talk about it. I think you at a high level, you captured me. I'm a plus size blogger. I started my blog 7 years ago. So it's been a long time in the making. And so I still consider myself a blogger, even though there's all these new terms that are out in the world, like influencer, content creator. But it started on the blog. I still love to sit down and just write posts and just kind of write from the heart. And it's my favorite part. One of my favorite parts of this is just being able to write and express what I'm feeling.
Yeah. So tell me, you did not go to school for blogging. I'm assuming that you went to school and you now a cybersecurity analyst, which is in my brains, you're like this super smart person. So how did that all start? How did you evolve into where you were doing that as your day job? But then also, I feel like your day job is also this, something gold, something blue blog of yours and platform. How did it start?
Yeah, absolutely. So in college, I majored in IT management. And so, I really was kind of in that tech mindset, which set us up to be, business analysts or in the technology field. I interned in cybersecurity, kind of falling into the career path, meeting some people, being interested, and then interning and falling in love with it. And so I joined the same company full time. And that was about 8 years ago. And so as part of that job, I was traveling every week, really up until COVID hit. And so I was in hotel rooms quite a bit by myself. And one of the nights I was in a hotel room in San Antonio, and I was reading blogs and just reading. I stumbled upon the Every Girl, and they had a list of all these bloggers, and I started following them and reading their blogs. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start one. And just out of the blue, right? It was just, I don't know what I'm going to write about. I'm just going to do it because I want to. And I have all this kind of quote unquote free time in hotel rooms that I'm just reading blogs. I may as well write one. So I opened up Blogger, created an account, and just started writing. And the journey has evolved since then, and the industry has changed significantly, but it has been a journey, I think is the right word. It's been a journey. Yeah.
So when you were like in that hotel room and you're like, okay, I'm going to start this, was there ever like this, first of all, did you know what you were starting? And then when you started it, were you a little fearful, or were you scared, or you're just like, I have no idea, I'm just doing it?
Yeah, I think I was like, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Like, I didn't tell my family or friends I was doing it. I just kind of had it. It was kind of like in a way, a personal journal to share things I liked with kind of being anonymous for a little while. And then it evolved from there. And, you know, I started to really kind of, I'd say, find my voice or fine tune what I wanted to share. And it started to kind of snowball from there and be a little bit more plus size fashion centric, because I noticed there wasn't a lot of plus size fashion being shared, or at least the blogs I was following weren't out there. And there was a need. And I also found a need for plus size workwear because there just wasn't a lot of that as well. And so, yeah, kind of finding my voice, finding my path within it. But yeah, I had no clue what I was starting.
So when you first started, you just did it. You just jumped into it. And then when is that tipping point when you were like, okay, this is more than just I can do what everybody else is doing type of situation. And you started really honing on to your niche. Like, what is it that triggered that? And how did you make those movements?
Yeah, I really think for me, I would say the biggest tipping point or change in my perspective around blogging, and that it could be, you could make money from it, that you could do anything with it, was attending my first conference in Houston and meeting other women who were also bloggers of different niches and different topics. And they talked about monetizing your site. I had no idea. This was 2 years into my blogging journey.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I had a few companies reach out and send me products, but I thought that's what it was. And back then it kind of really was what the industry was, but I had no idea. And so I went to this conference and I met other women who were on the same journey as me of, sharing their passions and just writing because they wanted to write, and shooting photos because they loved photography, and sharing recipes that they're making for their families. And it was just an eye-opening experience. And I honestly learned so much in that year and a half about blogging in general that I think it's really been my foundation ever since. And it was almost kind of a rebirth for my blog at that point, because I've just been focused on writing what I wanted to write about, and now was getting more honed and focused and restarting over.
Right. And then what were some of the challenges you might have faced during that time? And even in the niche that you've created, what are some challenges that you faced?
For me personally, I think some of the challenges I faced are really around being that one person show, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs can probably relate. You are probably the sole person for your business for really the beginning stages of it for the most part. You're often the person doing the marketing because you're on social media promoting. You're the one developing the content for the blog. You're the one reading contracts and doing the legal side of it. You're the one coding your site. So you're the web developer, right? And you're the accounting department, invoicing. So it oftentimes was just a struggle for me to find the time to dedicate to this, because my full-time job was very demanding as well. And when I'd get home and have time to work on it, I'd be like, I love this, but I got to sleep.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was finding the time, but I think most most the frustrating part is just figuring it all out. It's also the exciting part, but yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit more about the niche that you've developed. So how did that come about? I know that it was kind of organic also because you had a need and you didn't find the need. But then how did you, I feel like you have really positioned yourself in the fashion blogging influencer base for yourself. And it's really empowering what you do, by the way. I follow you on Instagram. I love what you do. But how did that happen? How did it develop? And what are some issues that you might have faced personally or even from outside?
Yeah, I think for me, I've grown up being plus size, right? In college, high school, even intermediate school, I was plus size, and I was different from other people that were, my age at that point. And, as I got older and I got out into the real world, and that's what I've always said, as I got out into the real world, as I got into, my career, into adult life, I really discovered that being the size I am it kind of is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And I've taken many journeys for health and, still am like an active fitness advocate and try to cook healthy. But, it just kind of is who my personality was, and it was my size at the time. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, with the blog in general, there weren't a ton of retailers that were offering really fun clothing 7 years ago for the plus size woman. And, we've been really encouraged to see that change throughout these past 7 years. And I really honestly believe it's because of plus size influencers and shedding light and having social media for people to speak up and say, this is what we need, this is what we want. And it's been amazing. But I would always hear from people, oh, you look so cute. Like, where did you get that from? And oftentimes it was me scouring the site to find a size that was inclusive of where I was at the time, which was about a 16, 18. So there were some retailers I could kind of fit into. Mm-hmm. And so I would just say it's snowballed from there of sharing one or two retailers that I loved. And then there were more that would pop up. And so I'd be able to start shopping there. And it just kind of grew from there.
That is actually so interesting, because while you were saying that, I was actually just thinking, like, I've seen retailers that traditionally may not have had such a variety of sizes, and now they actually have it. And it's pretty cool, because it's like no one body is made the same way, and things change. Life changes. Like after I had my children, my body just changed. And it's like, and there's always this body image issue that I think a lot of women have. And it doesn't matter what your size is, in my opinion. I always say, like, when I was younger, I always thought that I was overweight, and I wasn't, but I always thought it. Like, I always had this thing in my brain, and it's such a terrible thing. And so I love how you are on your platform empowering other women, doesn't matter what size they are, but to love themselves.
I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LawChat. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LawChat. And now, back to our awesome conversation.
I want to know that, even with the brands that you were working with, did you make or influence any one particular brand to make those changes to be more inclusive?
I don't know that I did. I haven't heard of it. I don't think so, right? I think I just was kind of living my life and sharing, but yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought about it.
Yeah. But I think you've probably worked with you probably worked with so many brands, and now they're probably also wanting to cater to you and wanting to provide you, because your platform is such. It's not just about your killer fashion sense, because you do have one, but it's so much more than that. And how, do you intentionally have that thing where you have, you show such a positive body image and loving yourself? Do you intentionally make that effort, or is it just something that just very naturally comes to you? Because wow.
So I think using the word journey today, but it has been for me something that I've had to grow into, right? And I think it was taking small steps. And if I look back at where I was when I first started sharing a lot more plus size clothing and even calling myself plus size. I didn't do that for a couple years into my blogging career. And I'd always refer to myself as curvy and, some of these other words, because to me, plus size was kind of a taboo word to say and a negative connotation. But it's definitely been something that I've had to work on personally. But I think the blog helped me to gain that confidence in myself, as well as just, I think, getting older and experiencing life a little bit more and understanding that the world doesn't, revolve around what you look like all the time. And you can go out and live your life. So I would say now I think it is just a part of who I am day to day. But when I first started, it was a struggle. Yeah. And there's still days I look in the mirror and it's, it's like, oh, but I have to remind myself, right? It's like, you are strong, you are beautiful, you are capable, it's just those affirmations that really, I have to say to myself on those days that are harder than others.
Right. And so what are some of the steps that you actively take aside from affirmations to bring the authentic self out and to embrace it?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just taking the time to recharge my batteries. I'm very much of an introvert. And so some days, it can just be draining. And by the end of the day, I'm just kind of drained. So taking the time to say, I need this 30 minutes to not look at a screen, right? And just be myself, I think helps a lot in just recharging myself. I think I also am a firm believer in working out, moving your body will bring kind of that happy feeling to my brain. And so for me, I always feel the most confident when I feel strong. And so, working out for me is a big thing because I'm fortunate to be able to move my body and I should take advantage of it. And as a addition to that, it makes me feel good after the fact. So, if I'm
keywords after the fact,
I may be dying on the bike at SoulCycle, but I will, I feel better the next day. So, yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm terrible about working out. It's like one of those things where I try to tell myself you need to have 30 minutes of activity, 30 minutes, but it's tough. It's a tough thing. It's hard. And then when your schedule is busy already, and then, then there's some people who are just like, that's part of my schedule and we have to make it happen regardless. And I wish I had that discipline, but I absolutely do not. So.
I don't either. I think I'm getting there a little bit, now that I've made it part of my routine, but I've also had to be a morning workout person because there's just no telling, what will come up by 5 o'clock at night. And if I'm going to have to, stay late at work or stay on the computer late now with these days. So yeah.
So what were some of the challenges that you have faced though, overall in the, as you evolved from adding this part of, the influencer marketing into your business? What are some of the challenges that you do face? Whether you are, that could also be just managing time between the two, jobs that you do.
Yeah, managing time is still a huge issue. And I think I'm slowly learning tactics to be able to do both. And so a lot of my weekends are spent prepping for the week ahead on the blog and social media. And, I now have been fortunate to be able to outsource some of my aspects of my business, like working with you from some of my legal contracts and having a team that helps me negotiate some contracts with brands and just help me kind of think of ways to organize my business that have helped. And I think learning to ask for help was a big thing for me. I've always been that go-getter doer. And so asking for help was huge, but it was definitely necessary. And I'd say, another struggle is just continuing to learn about things that are changing, right? We have TikTok's a new platform that's out and it's been around for about a year now, but it's something that we've all needed to kind of adapt to and learn about, or Instagram's constantly changing and we now have Reels and we're learning to be involved in Reels. And I think sometimes
I just cannot even with Reels right now.
I personally don't watch them a ton. I find myself just going to TikTok because they're practically the same. Yeah. So I think sometimes I feel the need to be all things everywhere. If that makes sense, especially on social media, right? It's like, oh, I need to be on Instagram stories and I need to do an IGTV and I need to post a static post and I need to do a reel and I need to be on TikTok and I need to be on Facebook. And I need to be on my blog and I should be emailing people. So it's just this constant, I think, pressure that I'm putting on myself because I feel like to keep up in the industry, you have to be doing this. So learning to really stop myself and say, where's the place that I want to share my content? So I've really taken a focus in the past couple of months on focusing on static IG posts because I just love doing those and I think it's a great place for things to stay. And then I've also kind of gone to IGTVs where they're a little bit longer of videos and I can share style sessions, which I do on Sundays, where I either take one piece of clothing and style it a couple of different ways, or I share what I'm wearing for the week and kind of giving ideas. And that's really been fun. And I think my audience likes it as well. So trying to balance what I like and what they like and all the things.
Yeah, it is challenging, actually. The ever-changing, the canvas that we're working with all the time, Instagram especially, and then, where you think it's most popular, but it's tough. And I think, especially with Instagram right now, if you're not on Reels, your algorithm's all messed up. And I'm just kind of like, whatever, because it's just this another added component to my day. And I know, people are like, if you don't do it, you need to do it. Like, there should be no reason not to do it. So I've done a few, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, no, thank you. Like, this is just extra stuff.
Yeah.
And and I don't feel it. That's my problem. I don't feel it. And so I think some people are so awesome on it. And I've seen some of your videos and where you do the snap and everything just changes. I'm just like, how is she doing that?
So I'll spill the dirty laundry. It's multiple takes and multiple times in front of the mirror being like, this is how I snap, right? I think it's so funny. I mean, if you ever watch, or I've always wanted to do this, like a blogger behind the scenes, like of what it really looks like to be an influencer or a blogger or whatever on, it's me changing in the back of my car for photo shoots because we bulk shoot things, right? And I'm shooting 5 or 6 outfits at a time with my photographer. And then I'm like changing in the back of my car, or I'm standing on top of a table to get the right, shot for a flat lay, or, I'm up till all hours of the night working on it. And I just always thought it'd be really funny to do a blog post, like sharing these like moments that, are behind the scenes of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so important because I feel like initially when Instagram and all started, it was all about the pretty. It was all about what it appears to be rather than what the reality is. And I think just seeing your blog post also, it's really important because you do see the authenticness that comes out. And I feel like the word authentic is overused, but I really mean it in the way that it's genuine. You feel that energy of genuinity from you coming out. And I think that's so important because it's not always all beautiful. Like right now, even, we were sitting, my lighting is terrible. I just can't do anything about it right now. I've done everything in my capacity to fix this lighting right now. I can't. So I'm like, whatever, I'll be shiny.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing. And, I'll be honest, right? Like I don't share everything on social media. I don't share usually the bad. I'd say I probably would like to be a little bit more raw and real on Instagram. I feel like I pour my heart out a little bit more on the blog. And I think it's maybe just because it's long form and I can just sit there and write and write and write. And then I think sometimes I don't do it as often. And so I can be more authentic there. But yeah, I think it's a balance, right, of sharing personal things versus, what you share kind of in the media and to everyone else. I think it's a balance, and I try to be as authentic as I can be with everything I say. But yeah, I'd say I had a pretty tough go of it in about April, May, June timeframe. And I decided just to take a step back from social media and really cut off being on social media, period, from looking at things or even posting. And so I sometimes find that I will take a step back too, when needed. And I think it's important for me personally. And I hope for other people, they take a step back as well. And I find it can be so time consuming and just draining for me personally. And,
And I think it can be toxic at times. And so it's a really good idea to detox And, especially during this time of COVID, and either some people were just emotionally so overwhelmed with the whole aspect of COVID that, seeing others do things kind of maybe made it intensify that negative feeling. Or, some people actually liked it. I don't know. It just depends on the person. But I think we shouldn't be hesitant to detox or to pause because we feel like, oh, the algorithm is going to get messed up, or, oh, no one's going to see us anymore. I mean, I'm sure that's happening to me right now because I just cannot do reels for my life. And so I'm trying.
I haven't been posting them either. So I'm like at this point, I'd rather just continue to communicate with the individuals that, are part of my community and a part of my tribe and are there to support me. And yes, the algorithm is a pain and I hate it, but I can't lose sleep over not posting a reel today because I didn't have time to.
Yeah.
Or I didn't want to, right?
Yeah. So what else are you doing now with your platform? How are you, making waves and impacting? What are some other things that are up in the horizon?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to continue to be sharing a lot more video in terms of just styling outfits different ways. And I'll really say, I think this year has taught me with the pandemic that I don't need as much as I think I do, especially when it comes to clothing, right? I'm not going anywhere. I don't need a new outfit. And so I've been shopping my closet quite a bit. So yeah, I'm excited to hopefully be launching a workwear capsule collection post so that you can kind of see what's in my workwear collection and different ways to style it. So that's hopefully on the horizon for early 2021. But yeah, just gearing up for holiday right now and starting to share some fun holiday content.
I know. And so I feel like, you're a cybersecurity analyst. And I know that even if in your profile, you'll say that, I'm conquering a male dominated world. But I also feel like in your, as a social media influencer, you're conquering that world too. And so what are some steps or advice that you would give to anybody to help them conquer, like mindset or action steps? What would be some of the advice or takeaways?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I think you have to be ready to put yourself out there in a way, right? You have to have that vulnerability to say, I'm going for this, and just, take a step to do it. And I think, in my professional career as well as in, my blogging career, I think there's always going to be haters, right? There's always going to be someone that's not going to agree with you or not going to support you for some reason. And I think I've had to learn that it's okay. And I think that's the biggest advice I give is you can't please everyone. And so, please yourself and make yourself happy by going after what you're trying to do, whether that's, in work or social media. And then I'd also say support yourself with a group of people that want you to succeed or want to help you succeed and are your cheerleaders or your mentors and can help you navigate that situation. So I can say both in my professional career as well as in my blog career that I have those tribes that are really supportive of me and help kind of propel me and push me forward to build my confidence to do whatever the next task may be.
Right. I do believe that. And I believe that having a tribe is so important, or a circle of friends friends, mentors. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is also to provide, empowerment through mentorship. But sometimes we don't have that, as a one-on-one, and it's nice to have something available for that. And so it's nice that you have that in both sides of your professional life. So that's really neat. And then where are some places that you have gone to find that mentorship or that circle of friends?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, a lot of it too, the circle of friends, especially in my kind of blogging career, has been on social media, right? It's connecting with other women who are sharing the same things as I am, and we start kind of commenting back and forth on each other's posts, and then we end up becoming social media friends or attending a conference and meeting people in real life. And so I think the more you can surround yourself with people off social media, the better it's become. But I'd say social media is a great avenue. You know, searching hashtags that are similar to what you're looking for has been great. In my professional career, I've been really fortunate that in consulting, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different women who have really provided that mentorship to me. And I'd say it's taken a while for me to find who really is kind of behind me, but I think I take every opportunity to learn that I can from anyone. And so just being able to be in a room with a CEO or a board of directors talking about cybersecurity, I try to take those interactions and learn from them as much as I can.
Yeah. And so cybersecurity you're doing, and then here you are diving into social media. I know there is no reconciliation between the two. It's like, it's absolutely polar opposites. Just for my own personal, like the legal aspect of it and, you know, privacy and all that stuff, the lawyers that are really specializing in this area don't even have like social media accounts. They don't do any of that stuff. So how do you reconcile it as an analyst? And then here you are, this, you know, awesome influencer.
I struggle with it, like, to be honest, especially when I travel, right? Like when I travel, I'm like, I should not be sharing where I'm at. Like I should not geotag this location today. And so, yeah, I definitely think I see, you know, some of the worst things in terms of privacy and things that happen. I specialize in credit card breaches. And so responding and preventing them. And I'm like, well, I still shop online all the time. Like, so yeah, I think, you know, for me, it's just kind of one of those things where I've had to find the balance that works for me personally. I think with social media in general, you kind of have to find that balance. And so, yeah, I think sometimes I'll delay, if I'm on a trip, I'll delay posting for a day until I'm not at the same location, or I will not geotag. That's where I think I get the most nervous is on trips, right? And just like my physical security.
Yeah. That's so funny. So are there any tips that you want to give to us about the whole cybersecurity safety?
Cybersecurity world? I would say I'm very cynical when it comes to cybersecurity, and most of my colleagues would probably say the same thing of your credit card will be hacked. So don't stop using them. Credit cards are definitely more secure in a way than your debit card. So I always recommend, if you're comfortable with a credit card, to have one, because you can dispute charges a lot easier and your funds don't come out automatically like it does with a debit card, where it's not refundable from the bank. You have those protections with a credit card. I would also say just get into a habit of reviewing your credit card statements on, you know, I say weekly or even every other week, depending on how much you're using them, just to make sure that you know what's being hit against your card and you can start to dispute them quickly. But, you know, your credit card will probably be stolen. It's probably already on the dark web. So
thanks.
I told you I'm very cynical in this area. So yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the risk of using it, but I will say a lot of companies that I've been able to work with, they are really taking the steps to protect them as best they can. And so, yeah, don't stop using them. And then the other thing is have a strong password for your crucial accounts, your credit cards, your bank accounts, your personal information, and then store them in a password vault. There's a couple different ones that are available, like on the App Store. And it's a great way to store passwords because you really shouldn't be reusing them. Not saying I follow what I'm preaching, but I'm just saying.
I surely do not follow that.
No.
But I have like 100 passwords.
I always am like, forgot password. It sends me an email.
I'll like go through all of them. I'll go through all of them. And then I'll be like locked out of something for a while. I do use LastPass. I think LastPass is pretty cool. And
LastPass is great.
It's really easy. Totally has helped me get out of binds because I honestly don't remember my passwords. So that's really cool. But then I feel like LastPass can get hacked into also, right? Like, so I'm just like,
yes.
Anything can get hacked into. I had somebody hack into I used to have an account on Zulily, and I Oh my gosh. And I had alerts on my phone, like credit card alerts, which I think is an amazing thing, everybody should have alerts. So that way, every time it's spent, you're like getting notification. So all of a sudden I'm getting all these alerts. I'm just like, what happened? Like are they charging me for something that they're now sending me that I bought like months ago? Anyways, I went on, this was during the whole COVID, like earlier in April and, May time. Yeah. And somebody was purchasing, while I'm on the app, somebody is buying all this random crap from Zulily. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, I'm literally, I can see them put stuff in my cart and they're purchasing. Like, they literally put it, purchase. Ugh. And then I call Zulily and they're blaming me. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm canceling this all. This haul is canceled.
Change password.
They had to cancel my account and I never reinstated it. So.
Oh, yeah. It's, it's a way it happens. And it was pretty funny back in, I guess, May timeframe. I got a bunch of phishing emails of like Bitcoin fraud. So they were saying that they had a video of me in a compromising position and they wanted me to pay them like $3,000 worth of Bitcoin to like a certain Bitcoin address wallet. And if I didn't do it, they're going to release this video to all my Facebook contacts or something like that. And I was like, okay. So I was like, do it. And then I got like 5 of the same email from different email addresses. And
Wow. That is crazy stuff. That is some crazy stuff. So it's like fraud is definitely a very living and breathing thing. I mean, people get phone calls about IRS and this and stuff, and it's just scary. Yeah. So, but that's so good that, I was actually really wondering that, like, how do you reconcile the whole social media visibility versus cybersecurity? So that's pretty cool to know. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. Sorry. I geeked out for a minute. I'm sure you could tell. I was like, oh, let's talk cybersecurity. So that side of me came out of like being the total geek. And I'm like, oh, this is what you should do. So thanks for bearing with me.
But that's so cool though, because, I feel like it's so nice to know that. And even if you shared it on your platform, on something gold, something blue, I'm sure people will eat that up, because honestly, there's always like questions that are on everyone's mind, but we just never ask them. So we're all thinking it and secretly hoping no one hacks us. Then you get hacked.
So it's an interesting world. I'll tell you that. We learn a lot of new things every day.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see the new things that you're doing on your blog and also on your social media platforms. And I know that we kind of touched on, the different challenges that you have faced and seen. Is there anything else that has been really pronounced and that you just really had to pick yourself up and just say it's going to be fine?
I don't think so. I mean, really, I think there's been little things here and there. There's nothing I'd say that has been major. It's also kind of my personality where I'm just like, yeah, it happened, But yeah, I mean, I'd say, there's always the things like copyright infringement, right? I think that's a big thing in the influencer space that a lot of us have struggled with, myself personally, where people are taking your photos and leveraging them for something else, whether it's their website to monetize or their social media accounts. And, how do you handle it? And I think everyone has a different approach to that, of how they use it. And I think, especially if it's a bigger brand, it's always a difficult conversation to have. But yeah, I think copyright infringement has been one thing that I would say is like a frustrating pain point that has been with my business. Yeah.
Actually, that's a huge pain point for most businesses. If you have a social media presence, regardless of what you do, that's a huge problem. And I'm so glad we're actually talking about that, because this is Law Chat, and I definitely segue into that at some point in time. So this is the perfect timing for that. And I feel like what you're saying is so true. And what is really key, though, is something that you just said about brands, and it's difficult to negotiate that with brands. So how have you negotiated the ownership of your content that you create? And do you own it, or do you give it, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination, right? I think it's what I negotiate with the brand at the time. And so I definitely have a contract with every brand that I work with. And, I have a standard contract template that I use. Oftentimes I'm using brand paper. So they're providing the contract. And I make sure to review it in detail and understand what the content usage is. So, there's brands that I've negotiated where I have, full exclusive rights to my own photos. There's others where I'm providing them photos, or we call them assets, right? Of here's these photo assets that you can use however, and they kind of whitelist them. There's some where I give them rights to repost on social. So it's really about how I negotiate the contract and what we've included there.
Right. And so what are some tips though to ultimately own your content where you're almost giving them a license to use it? And, maybe some brands are just not having it, or they're trying to, put a stronghold on the influencer. So what are some tips for the influencer at that point?
Yeah, I think for me, I've definitely started sending emails and then, engaging in potentially cease and desist orders for using my photos if necessary. But I would say, I think with most things in life, but especially in the influencer world, creating those relationships with the brands that you work with is so critical. And so being able to have open, honest conversations with my points of contact at brands has also been huge, because I can just be like, hey, this isn't something we agreed to. How can we, make it work for both of us? And that's been my experience of it. I think I should be more concerned about my copyright. I really should, but I think I'm less concerned about it just because, to be honest, I don't have the time to worry about it as much. If it is on, Instagram or social media, you can dispute it with Instagram or with Facebook or Pinterest and say, this is my content, if it's pointing to another blogger's website or something like that. I've also sent cease and desist letters to web providers who are hosting websites that have my photo on them. So yeah, I think it's all about how you handle it. I think with brands that I work with on a consistent basis, I'm able to have those conversations.
So communication is key with them, and then having that open dialogue and letting them know your stance on it also.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's key. I agree with you. So I know that we've had a great conversation talking about all things. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to any aspect of your journey that we just didn't kind of dig deep into?
I don't think so. I think we talked about a lot of it. No, I'm going to get off this call and be like, oh, we should have talked about this. That's just who I am. But off the top of my mind, I can't think of anything.
Yeah. So tell me one more question I have, and then we're going to kind of go into some fun facts. But what is your anchor when things are just not going the right way? And so what's your anchor? What keeps you solid?
Yeah, I think for me, there's one instance in particular. I had a young girl reach out. She was probably in high school or, early college years, and just saying I never thought I could wear something like this, and you inspired me to wear it. And, it sticks with me so much because I think back then, if I look at myself back at that point in my life, I would have said the same thing. I can't wear shorts, it'll show my legs, or I can't wear sleeveless tops. I was always the girl in a cardigan in 100-degree heat in the Houston summers. And so I think my anchor point is always just the teenage me that needed to hear that every size is beautiful. You are beautiful, and you can wear whatever you want and go after the dreams that you have, right? Whether that's traveling the world or being a boss and, or, just live an everyday life. Right. And so that, I think, is my anchor, is just hoping to inspire someone to wear something or take one risk when it comes to fashion and live their best life.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful, because honestly, that's how I feel that your voice is that word of encouragement. Your platform is that empowerment to other women out there. It doesn't matter where they're coming from, what size they are. And I think that's the beauty of your platform. And just quickly before we exit from there is, because I really want to know this. And because this is truly something that I know that as a woman, even my teenage years, I have probably thought about this more often than not. And it's how do you overcome those debilitating thoughts? Those thoughts of, I'm not this, I'm not that. When in reality, you probably are. And even if you aren't, it doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
how did you evolve? Like, how did that mindset evolve?
Yeah, I think for some of it, it was surrounding myself with other people that looked like me, right? And that was social. It was on social media. It was in person. I think it was also a realization of how much I had to be grateful for. And so, I have a body that works. I have all of my functions right now, and I can move and I can walk, and it's a blessing to be alive. So just being grateful for what I do have and being able to say that. And then I think to be honest, just seeing representation and having social media as well as, media. We have television shows now that have plus size leads and all of that. So I think just having representation helps too. But yeah, I think it's a combination.
Yeah, I think that is so brilliant. I love it. And it's truly amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. So now we're just going to kind of go into some fun facts. So what is your favorite book? It could be fun, fiction, non-fiction, business book.
So the one I just read and was absolutely in love with it, and this is really funny that you asked this because it's very much about representation, is The One to Watch. And it is about a plus size blogger that kind of slams the version of The Bachelorette. And she ends up becoming the Bachelorette, and she's like the first plus size Bachelorette.
Oh, wow.
And so it's her journey on that show. And so I think for me, it was very relatable and it was a great read. So that has been my most recent favorite book.
I love that. And then what is a blog outside of yours that you love and that you like to follow?
Ooh, there's so many. I could spend an hour talking about them because it's still one of my favorite hobbies to do. But I would say a few of my favorites are Kelly in the City. She's a Chicago preppy blogger. She has 2 little daughters and they're the cutest thing. I would say Krista Robertson from Covering the Bases. She's a preppy New York blogger. And so it's always fun to follow her stuff. And I mean, I really could go on, and I'm trying to think. But yeah, I'll stick with those 2 for now.
Yeah. That's nice. And some biz tools or apps that are just your absolute necessary and faves.
Yeah. So Pinterest, I definitely use Tailwind all the time. And so Tailwind has been so amazing for me to grow my Pinterest account and to grow my monthly views and get my content out there as well as others. I would say Google collaboration tools have been essential for me too. Google Sheets, I plan all my content on Google Sheets. Lightroom has been good for photo editing and kind of organization. So those have been my main ones. Yeah.
Nice. I don't use any of them, and now I'm going to look into them. So
love it.
How can we follow you? Where can we connect with you? Where can we say hi to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I for most platforms, I am Emily SGSB on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, and over at my blog at somethinggold.somethingblue.com.
Nice. And I'm going to have everything in the links below. And so that way everyone can find you and just follow your amazing fashion sense also.
Oh, thank you.
I love what you wear. I think it's so darn cute. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show with me. And it was such a pleasure talking to you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. Nice. This was so fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girja. I love these kind of stories and conversations where we can be real, honest, and open, and having fun at the same time. I hope you are inspired and motivated to keep doing the amazing work you are doing. If this is something that gave you all those feels and then some, truly motivated and inspired for you, you can show your love in all or one of these ways. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your community and tell them about it, or share with somebody that can benefit from it. I look forward to seeing you next time on another episode of Law Chat, and until then, keep moving forward. Bye.